Amazon sellers around the world, what you need to know is that Amazon has now instituted a new contract between you and Amazon. They are imposing a new agreement upon you, and there are significant changes to that agreement. Some are going to be super helpful and really good for sellers. It's going to let us write better plans of action and better appeals for you. Other provisions are absolutely awful for sellers. And there's a couple things you need to know. One, there are significant changes. Number two, if you're writing a plan of action yourself or you're having someone else write it for you, they must know this contract inside and out. They must be able to interpret it. They must understand the legal terms, or you are paying for something that you're not getting. So I highly recommend you use us if you're going to pay anybody to write a plan of action. But if it's not us, it has to be a lawyer who understands the legal terminology and the effect of these provisions. So that's the introduction to the new BSA, the Business Solutions Agreement. And to get started, most sellers don't even know that this document exists. Most sellers think it's a term of service with a participation agreement, and it's not. It is this contract is what governs your relationship with Amazon, and it is incredibly one-sided. And we're going to get right into the substance of it. At the beginning of any contract, there are usually general terms, and Amazon has followed suit. So I'm here with Travis Stockman. He is the managing attorney at the firm for litigation. If you get sued by a brand or you need to start a lawsuit, Travis is your man, and he is just fantastic. He's what we call our lawman around here. We're going to get into the general terms and start talking about it. So Travis, let's talk about the first few lines, okay? The welcome to Amazon Services Business Solutions. What are your thoughts on just that first couple of lines in this contract?
Sure. I mean, you look at the name Amazon Business Solutions, and you wouldn't think directly this is a contract which you're going to engage in with Amazon, which is going to hold you to some legal responsibilities.
But it entirely does. And the first three lines, okay, it addresses selling on Amazon, fulfillment by Amazon. So if you're using FBA, Amazon clicks, transaction processing services, which has legal significance because when someone is processing your transactions, they owe you a fiduciary duty in many states around the country. And Amazon crossed out marketplace web service and instead put selling partner API. To me, that means that third-party vendors who are accessing Amazon at seller's request through the API, they're under this agreement also, even though they're not signing it.
Right.
What are your thoughts, Travis?
I mean, first off, you would think that those third-party services, those vendors would need to be participatory in this agreement. But if they're not signature to this agreement, it's kind of interesting that this would extend its reach to them, or at least make an attempt to extend that reach.
So right off the bat, Amazon is trying to reach out and encompass companies who don't sign this agreement because they're working in your behalf. That's why you got to watch every one of these videos on our update for the entire contract. Okay, the second paragraph in the general terms, okay, and this contract is pretty long here, okay, so there's going to be a lot of information for sellers out there. The second paragraph is the same as the old BSA, and it says basically that by using Amazon services in any way, you are agreeing that this is the agreement. There are no changes, and when Amazon updates it, you are responsible for those updates. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no ability to negotiate. It is purely a contract of adhesion, which means you take it or leave it. And that's the second paragraph is about. Now, Travis, now we're getting into the third paragraph of the general terms.
Sure.
We're still on the first half a page of this contract, and there's a ton of information for sellers. The third paragraph, what concerns you most about the changes to the BSA in the third paragraph?
So what they added into the third paragraph was that the general terms take precedent over any other prior terms or service terms.
So what that means is that if you sent $100,000 of inventory to Amazon the day before this contract was issued, that $100,000 of inventory is now subject to this agreement. And that doesn't really seem fair. But in your prior contract, Amazon said that you're responsible and you're liable and you're subject to whatever changes that Amazon wants to make. Also, what I like here is that if there's a conflict, it specifically identifies that if there's a conflict, what's going to govern. How do you think we're going to use that to help sellers?
So when you enter into a contract, one thing courts look to uphold the validity of a contract is whether there was a manifestation of mutual intent, whether both parties truly intended to enter into this agreement, and when they did so, they fully understood the terms of the agreement. By creating inconsistencies, it's difficult in the first place for sellers to understand the general terms of service, but to now deal and understand with the terms of service when there's several inconsistencies, you don't know which one takes precedent, which one applies. It creates a little ambiguity. And when there's ambiguity, sellers aren't clear about what terms and what policies they're expected to follow.
So I think this is both good and bad for sellers. It's bad for sellers because Amazon can ding you and suspend you under one provision that conflicts with another one that you're in compliance.
Right.
But when it comes to your plan of action, you could argue that you were in compliance with the portion that you were complying with and show Amazon staff in Hyderabad and Bangalore that you did a deep dive, you looked at the contract, and argue what works. And if it comes back with an argument of something else or some other infraction, you could even in a supplemental plan of action point out that you identified both provisions, you complied with one, but as it changed to your business, you're now going to try and comply with both, which is going to be difficult. You're going to be bending over backwards, sideways, doing backflips. So that is one of the things. So it's good for sellers that you have a lot of arguments to make. It's also bad because you just don't know what the governing information is going to be. What are your thoughts about how the contract right here says that the general terms will govern instead of the other 46 pages?
So I think it's interesting, it sets that this new changes are going to take precedent over anything else in the agreement. And it even creates not just inconsistencies with the prior terms of service, creates inconsistencies within the new entire contract itself.
That's right, sellers. So there are inconsistencies between this contract and the old contract when you shipped your stuff to FBA, when you started selling, when Amazon starts holding your money. And there's also what we call internal inconsistency, which means right in the same contract, right in this document, there are conflicting terms, okay? And what it says in the general terms is that in these 3 paragraphs, in this first less than half a page, if it's different there than in the other 46 or so pages, these 3 paragraphs are going to rule, and that just doesn't make any sense. Okay, that is the general terms of your new business solutions agreement. That is just the first 3 paragraphs of what you need to know. And we're going to break it down. We're going to break down these videos literally paragraph by paragraph by paragraph to provide sellers all over the world with the information you need to know under the contract that governs your relationship, and also the contract you need to argue to win plans of action, appeals, Bezos escalations, and even in arbitrations, if you end up there. All right, Travis, thank you for getting into the mutual assent, the legal ease, the contract law, the differences, and Travis is going to join me for the real legal heavy paragraphs. Other members of our team will be helping me to pick apart the entire contract. So please, of course, like this video and share it. And please work this into your daily routine to watch these videos so that you know what your contract with Amazon says.